In this video, we will explore ideas and questions related to global supply chains. As with everything, global supply chains have benefits and risks, and you might save a lot of money, but you might sacrifice some quality. Or your shipment might get attacked by Houthis. For some businesses, shipping costs tripled and in some cases even quadrupled after massive detours have to be taken just to avoid them. In other news, and this isn't super popular and didn't make a ton of headline news, but in 24 and 25, massive droughts led to disruptions through the Panama Canal. That's harder, I'll even say maybe nearly impossible to predict. How do you know that's going to happen? Similar things happened in 2025 and 23, but in America, barges were not able to make it up through the Mississippi. The early issue here is that they were not able to be loaded as heavy because the draft would be too deep, meaning that the heavier the boat is, the more you put on it, the deeper it sinks into the water. That's the draft, which means that they were worried about it running into the bottom of the river. And in other times, the drought was so bad that they weren't able to make it up the river at all. I mean, with zero shipment on it. So if you can't move, all of your products sit still. So supply chains, shipping, that's all a big part of it. But weather is really just one risk. When countries consider global operations and supply chains, they also need to consider foreign environmental regulations, workforce, which with all of the sub-bullets, meaning education, labor laws, labor costs, the amount of the workforce, like do you have enough people? Do they have transportation to get there? Do they have utilities set up to be able to support you? Will the government support you? Risks to intellectual property. And then back to the government is that if you run into issues, is the government going to be a good friend? Are they going to be help? Or are they going to be a bigger pain and actually cause more problems for you? So there's a lot there. The other thing that's even hard is to say, is it going to impact your reputation? Will it hurt your business's brand and reputation if you're simply doing production or even just business with somebody? So there's a lot to encounter. There's so much that goes into the cost benefit analysis of moving your operations and supply chain that it takes a lot of work and effort, more than we're going to cover in this video. But I do want to cover another kind of less talked about topic of moving. And it's the question, is it compatible with the triple bottom line? In other conversations under the umbrella of the triple bottom line, we have doing businesses with local suppliers and giving back to and supporting your local community. And we kind of expect that as part of the people aspect, is that, hey, just make sure that you're taking care of the people around you. So it seems apparent on the surface, right, that even at first glance, outsourcing and offshoring your work to some other country, that seems opposed to anything to do with the triple bottom line. Well, I'm going to provide, as always, a different perspective on this and a little caveat as a condition that might allow them to work together. Now, consider that the initial observation here, that if you're not supporting your local person, you're kind of wrong. That's kind of a black and white. But it also makes the assumption that you are obligated to pick the local supplier or employ the local person. But I'm going to zoom out for a second and say that really the business has an application to its current employees and customers to some extent. Remember that just because your customer wants something doesn't require you to provide it. Businesses should operate underneath a virtue ethics framework, something like just capitalism. I don't mean just it, I mean as in justice. That they have a moral law or a deontological commitment, ensuring product integrity and doing the right thing, that you should be acting virtuously at all times. We have that duty and obligation. So, calling into question, actions taken by companies like Nike, Gap, Shein, H&M, Zara, Walmart, Microsoft, Mattel, Disney, Amazon, all of them have been linked to something like sweatshops or unsafe working conditions, labor law violations, or even unpaid wages. So I think it goes without saying that those companies are obviously doing something wrong. And that is kind of a risk that I think companies fall into, is that if you don't have a moral code and I like the analogy of guardrails to keep you on the straight and narrow path, then what's going to stop you from going down the slippery slope to say, hey, we'll just use child labor? I think that's pretty obvious, but for these companies, obviously it wasn't. So I think it should go without saying that many companies, they have found success and they're doing the right thing. They're globalizing, they're using offshoring, and they're doing it ethically and morally. They're saving money and they're able to give back to their local community. So it ends up being a win-win. When the company saves, they have more to give. An empty cup can't fill another. So I think that's where the triple bottom line and offshoring or globalization can actually marry up and be okay, if you're able to find that win-win. Our goal is to ensure that all of our business practices sit well within the moral and ethical boundaries, and the triple bottom line is a great way to do that. I like just capitalism in addition to that, but the summary here is that if your business is able to strike that balance between operating more efficiently and improving your margins while still maintaining a strict moral and ethical code, such as just capitalism, then I would say more power to you. And as always, if you have any other thoughts, questions, or content ideas, I would love to hear them in the comments, and I will get those in future videos. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for next time.